Hi, I'm Jared Platt and I'm a professional photographer, but I'm also just a guy that likes to take pictures for fun. In this workshop, not only am I going to teach you how to capture the perfect exposure, I'm also going to teach you how to organize your photos in a way that they'll never be lost again, and you'll be able to find them at the drop of a hat so that you can share them with the world. You're going to learn how to edit and organize your photos using amazing new tools in Lightroom, including presets, profiles, artificial intelligence. Learn how to replace boring skies, create beautiful HDR images, and even create your own website. I'm going to simplify your life by showing you the perfect photo workflow from capture through edit and sharing in Lightroom. And you're going to be able to do that anywhere you are, on any device, whenever creativity strikes. We're going to show you how to do that here on Creative Live.
You can hear me, right?
I can hear you.
Oh, I can't hear you.
Why not?
Oh. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Creative Live. My name is Kenna Klosterman, and I am your host today for Jared Platt's brand new class, Capture through Edit using Lightroom. And we are super thrilled to be kicking off the year with this brand new epic class. What we're going to do today is do a little live kickoff. We've got Jared on the line here, and we're coming from my home to Jared's home to yours. We're going to get you excited about the class, and then we are going to have the premiere, which is going to run for through the night for those of you who are watching in different time zones for that first 24 hours for free. So you can check out the class as we always do here to have access for everybody that is tuning in around the world. And then, of course, if you love the class, you can purchase it for on-demand anytime access with all of the many bonus materials that we are going to talk through today. So if you are tuning in, let me know where it is that you're tuning in from all around the world. We love to give those shout outs. If you are on creativelive.com on this class page, you can click on join chat and we will be in there with you. I'm starting to see some people starting to chat in there. Roger Welton, great to have Jared Platt back. His classes are always excellent. That is so true. If you are not familiar with Jared Platt, he has dozens and dozens of classes here on Creative Live, one of our original educators. He is a portrait, lifestyle, and wedding photographer based in Arizona. Like I said, prolific educator and just loves photography. And we are going to get into that and why he created this class. So if you do have questions for Jared, we'll take some of those at the end, but we've got a jam-packed 25 or so minutes before we roll the pre-recorded class that Jared has worked super hard on. It is almost 9 hours. So get ready, everybody, and please help me welcome Jared Platt. Jared, how you doing?
I am great. Thanks for asking.
Awesome. I am going to give some shout outs because the peoples are coming in from all over the world. So we've got Pam in Chicago, Alejandra in Nashville, we've got Curacao, New Hampshire, Maryland, Florida, Israel, McKay in Israel, Yvonne in Mexico, Vancouver. Janice, who is tuning in from the DMV. Sorry, Janice.
From the DMV. That is its own country, by the way. Any DMV is like its own country.
Oh, completely. Anyhow, Goodyear, Arizona, Quebec, New York, all over. So welcome everybody again. We're super thrilled to have Jared here. So Jared, let's just dive into it. Tell me why you built this class and what you are most excited for people to learn.
Well, I think I built this class. So originally when we talked at Creative Live, we had a meeting and you guys at Creative Live were saying, hey, we need a class because of all the new things in Lightroom. And I was totally on board with that. And I was like, yeah, that's great, because so many things have changed over time. And Lightroom itself and Adobe and the Creative Cloud have kind of advanced to the point where now they the baby version of Lightroom is now becoming quite impressive on its own right. A lot of people, are used to Lightroom Classic, but Lightroom, the new version of Lightroom, is really quite impressive now. And so many things have changed with the Creative Cloud and the ability to sync, and what you can do with just your phone, and connecting your images from your phone, like on a shoot somewhere, and showing images to clients through it. So much has changed that I was like, this really needs to get out there. So we conferenced, and you were there, and you were like, 3-hour, class, it'll be fine. And I started recording this class, and I was working on it, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I was like, there's too much. You can't do a 3-hour class on this topic. And so my impetus for creating the class and doing it the size that I did was because I really want people to see how much they can actually accomplish and what they can do, which is an amazing amount of things to their photos. And it can be, at this point, someone could literally use Lightroom, the new version of Lightroom, professionally as well. But it's a powerhouse for editing. It's a powerhouse for sharing. It's a powerhouse for organization. It's a really fantastic system. Plus, it can connect to Lightroom Classic as well. So it's just a win-win all around. So I was just excited to share this out because I've done a lot of education on a professional level. And so I wanted to actually share a class that was much more accessible to people who aren't professionals, who are just interested in photography, that just love taking pictures when they're on vacation. They're artists who take photos, and they use their photos in various ways, parents who take pictures of their kids. So I wanted it to be totally accessible to that group of people. And so everything in it is geared to be very understandable and very clear, so that anybody can learn from it, and professionals can learn from it too. There's no doubt about that. But I wanted it to be accessible to people who weren't working professionals.
So it's, again, it's amazing how it went from a 3-hour class to an almost 9-hour class. It is so jam-packed. And so
it's triple the fun.
Triple the fun. Want to make sure everybody knows, like you said, this is for not just a single type of photography. So we prepared some sort of before and afters for Jared, for you to sort of highlight some of the things that people are going to learn. So let's show the first one, and then we'll kind of go into, I know a lot of people, people are asking, we've got Kate there on Facebook in our chat and asking about, are you a Lightroom user or a Lightroom Classic user? And people are asking, which is the best? So let's see before and after, and then we can go into sort of the differences, because it can be confusing as to what Lightroom is and Lightroom Classic.
Sure. In this class, we do talk about pretty much all sorts of, we talk about landscape photography, we talk about travel photography, we talk about people photography. So I tried to give an example in all sorts of different arenas, so that no matter what you're into, whether it's HDR or panoramic images, or whether it's lighting portraiture, or whether it's just, photos when you're traveling, or taking photos of your kids with your iPhone when you're out playing in the snow. All of those things are things that we cover in this class, because I want you to be able to make photos wherever you happen to be and edit them. And so that's the point. This is actually one of my favorite images from traveling in Europe. It's a place called Hallstatt. But you can see that there's a problem in that it's a really deep shadow, and then there's this really bright highlight hitting that mountain in the background. And so I actually shot HDR here. And so if we go to the next one, you'll see the finished image based on HDR work and a little burning and dodging that we do during the class. And so That's just one of the examples of images that we talk about, and how to, bring out the colors in the buildings, and how to, bring out the reflections in the lake and all that kind of stuff. So.
All right, awesome. I've been to Hallstatt as well, which is
Have you?
such a.
It's a
I have.
fantastic
I have.
place.
It's
I could
so
stay there for
beautiful.
days.
Ah, so beautiful. In fact, I took some photos of the reflections in that off of a deck, and this was about probably 25 years ago. Anyway, I digress. Let's talk about the differences between Lightroom and Lightroom Classic, because historically you would say Lightroom something, and Lightroom for web, Lightroom mobile, but now Adobe is just calling it Lightroom for the specific version. So let's go into that.
Yeah, Photoshop didn't do anybody any favors, not Photoshop, Adobe didn't do anybody any favors in the way that they named things. And they're still dealing with that. But essentially what they did is they said, okay, we're creating a new version of Lightroom, because we had all since 2005 been working on this thing called Lightroom. And then they took it and they said, we're going to make a brand new version of Lightroom that's going to be a much more streamlined program. It's built on a new code. And they wanted to make a version of Lightroom that was accessible to everybody, and that it also solved some problems. And one of the problems that most people have is they don't think about backing up their photos, so they don't protect themselves against losing these important photographs that they take. And they end up losing them because of a computer crash or something like that, and they don't have a backup system, and they don't have any kind of cloud-based storage or any of that. And so they started this system based on the idea of a cloud-based ecosystem. And that's what Lightroom became, but they had to then have a name for the other one. The first Lightroom became Lightroom Classic, and this Lightroom became Lightroom. And so now when we say Lightroom, we mean the new version that's much more streamlined, and it's cloud-based. And when I say cloud-based, most people freak out and think, oh, I'm going to have to log on to the cloud in order to use Lightroom. It's not what it means. What it means is that Lightroom is attached to the cloud, so that all of the services in the cloud become accessible to the program that's on your computer. So when I put a photo into Lightroom, it automatically backs it up to the cloud, the full high-resolution image. And then it automatically sends it to all my other devices. And then from my other devices, if I happen to put a photo in there, like say I take a picture with my phone, it automatically sends that picture up to the cloud and then back to my computer. So there's this interchange of all of your images so that they're always accessible everywhere. And that's what Lightroom is now. It's that total accessibility, whereas Lightroom Classic is still a beefy workhorse that does thousands of images. It is based in your computer. It can still connect to the cloud. It can still connect to Lightroom and to the cloud and to the Lightroom web and all those places. But it's really meant to be a workhorse that does all the heavy lifting for a professional photographer's workflow. And so a lot of the stuff in Lightroom Classic is not necessary for just the everyday photographer who just likes to take pictures. And that's really why I wanted to do a course that was very much based in Lightroom. In fact, in the past, whenever I've talked about Lightroom, I've always kind of talked about both of them in tandem. And this course, we avoid talking about Lightroom Classic other than just a brief mention or two, because it's really all about, if I'm just a photographer that likes taking pictures, and I'm not running thousands upon thousands upon thousands of images, say a wedding or high volume portraiture or something like that, I don't need Lightroom Classic. I can get it. I can use this new streamlined system that's incredibly well programmed. It's very fast. It's very nimble, and it just works. So that's the difference.
Well, thank you for explaining that, because again, I think I have to stop and think about it, multiple times. But again, Lightroom, just new version, classic on your desktop. And I think a lot of people are now sort of looking to see like, well, which one should I use? And they're both available if you have the subscription, correct?
Yeah, so you could subscribe to Lightroom. There's a lot of different subscription levels, but usually the one that people choose is the Lightroom and Photoshop version, which is called the photography plan. And that gives them access to Lightroom, Photoshop, and Lightroom Classic. And so they can choose between the two, or they can actually use both at the same time. So there's a lot of different, and we talk a little bit about that in the class, especially the difference and what you're using Lightroom for and what it can do. But I think that anybody who's interested in the what is the difference between the two will really get a good sense of what they can do with Lightroom here, especially those people who are already using Lightroom Classic. If you just heard about Lightroom, but you're not sure you want, this is a good class because you're going to see how powerful it actually is. And you'll be able to see, oh, I could use that for, because the question you asked earlier was, I think someone asked this on the chat, was, which do I use? And the answer is I use both. I use Lightroom Classic for my high-end professional, like I've got to churn out 1,000 images really fast. That's what I use Lightroom Classic for. But I'll tell you what, I love using Lightroom on its own without Lightroom Classic because it connects in. All of my images end up in Lightroom Classic anyway, because the system is connected to all of it. So
let's take a look at that, pull up the ecosystem, which schematic that you
Yeah,
that
they've
you
done
created
such a great job with this ecosystem that a lot of the times I will prefer to put professional photos a portrait session or some travel photography or something like that. I will put it into my phone, or I'll bring my iPad, just stick it in my photo backpack, and I will put the original images in Lightroom in my iPad, and they'll end up going to the cloud. And by the time I get home, they're back inside of Lightroom Classic, but they're also everywhere else. And I actually have preferred over the last year, especially while I've been, during this year, it's been a little strange. Like you don't know where it's like, and I get tired of being here at my computer screen because I'm kind of locked in all the time. And so I will take my iPad out to the back porch and I'll look at photos there, or I'll take the iPad with me when I go to wait to pick up my kid from, school or from whatever he's doing. And so that constant contact with my photos and the ability to share them whenever I feel like it, I love that. And so I use Lightroom probably, I don't know, 40% of the time because I love that constant contact with it. I'm constantly using it to share images, but I'm also using it for actual production on my photography too.
So let's get a little bit further into, again, thank you for explaining and kind of setting us up with this Lightroom Classic, and the different ways that they are integrated together. But this class is a lot more than just Lightroom. Not that it's just, because there's a lot to understand about, the workflow, which of course you are known for in terms of educating folks about. But let's talk a little bit about what people will learn. You'll go into the capturing part, the photographing part, using your histograms, and all the way out to then touching on Photoshop, sharing. So what are some of the highlights, and maybe we have a couple more before and afters that people can see. And we want to talk about the bonus materials too, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. So the first thing I guess to cover is what is in the class, and as the name suggests, we actually talk a lot about capturing images. We talk about camera settings that are useful in making sure you're successful. We talk about perfect exposures, like how to get a perfect exposure by reading what your camera is telling you. In fact, there's a whole series. I think there are 3 lessons that span over an hour and a half of information on how to get better acquainted with your camera so that you understand how to get the best possible exposure from your camera, and you know what it's saying to you when you're out in the field taking pictures, because your camera is actually trying to tell you things about whether or not you did a good job at taking the picture. But you have to understand the language the camera is speaking. And so not only do we talk about that, we talk about editing photos, we talk about organizing the photos, about sharing the photos, and even, and this was something that I probably shouldn't have put in the workshop, but I did because I thought it was really important, that there's this whole other element of creating even a website from Lightroom. And it's amazing that Adobe has just given people a website creator tool. So, it's like people go and pay for a website and they don't realize that Adobe has given them a website and it's part of their subscription. So you might as well use it because it's really awesome and it's really easy. So I put that in, and I think that's, that I just kept putting stuff in. I was like, this is important. I need to put this in the workshop. So it got really big because I thought everything was important. So
well, it is. It's truly comprehensive. Again, all those different elements, because it's one thing to think about, Lightroom as the tool for editing, which is kind of and organizing and editing. But like you said, many of us don't know the full capabilities and spectrum of the nuances of what else you can do to make your photography life easier.
right.
And so it's exciting to dive
Well,
into.
and if you think about what is photography if you don't share it? It's worthless. If you don't share photography, and you and I have talked about this on a podcast before, but my opinion is, if you don't share a photo, you might as well not take the photo. So
And I disagree, but we can go into that later. In fact, let's
right,
get some engagement. Let's get some engagement here if you're on Facebook or in the chat room. Would you take photos if nobody would see them? Because my answer is yes, although
and my
Jared
answer is
no.
no, emphatically no. If no one could ever see my photographs, I would stop taking them and I would do something else. If I needed something for self-fulfillment, I'd go play music. I get something out of music, just playing it and like hearing the music and playing the music. But photography, if I couldn't share what I wouldn't do it. I would stop. So
Wow. I am different, and we'll see what other people say. For me, it's part of the experience. But I just want to make sure that everybody knows, who might just be tuning in, that we're in the middle of our live kickoff with Jared, and then we are going to roll into the pre-recorded course, which of course we are here when we are recording this during COVID times. So Jared has created the course on his own in an incredible way, and we're going to roll into that for all of you for that free premiere that will then loop during the course of today, only through tomorrow morning Seattle time. So we just have a few minutes left. So let's talk about the bonus materials, because there is the class, of course, that you will be able to watch if you purchase the class, if you purchase the Creator Pass subscription. But then there's also, when you do either of those things, you get access to these amazing amounts of bonus materials that are going to help you get the most out of this course. So tell us about those.
Well, first off, we put some PDFs in there so that people could see the schematics, download them, set them next to their desk, write on them, see, so that they could understand what the ecosystem is like. We also included some presets in there and some profiles, because I talk about those and I show people how to install them, and I want people to be able to actually walk along with me and install them. So while you're watching that portion, make sure if you've purchased the course, go to the download area and download those, and then do it along with me so that you'll know exactly how to do it, and you'll be able to play with them, and they're pretty cool. So you'll enjoy them after the fact. But then the other thing that I'm excited about is that I put a whole bunch of images there as well. So you have the raw images that I'm working on, not all of them, but some of them, especially ones like, for instance, show the panoramic image. So during the class, I go out and I capture a panoramic image. And since some people maybe don't have pieces of a panorama to put together, I've given you all of these images so that you can put the panorama together and play with it alongside me. And I even gave you the sky that we ended up putting into this photo so that you can kind of walk along this entire process of creating the panoramic and then replacing the boring sky and changing the way the mountain looks and stuff like that. So all of that kind of stuff is in there. I gave you, just in case you don't have a photo of someone that you want to retouch, I gave you a photo of someone to retouch that you can retouch completely in Lightroom. So I added some photos in there so that you could walk along the process with me too. So those are some of the bonus materials that are in it.
Awesome. Again, and those are, like Jared said, raw files. So give yourself some time when you do own the course or have that.
Yeah, they're big raw files too.
To download them.
The big raw files.
So once again, everybody, if you're tuning in on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, or right here on the class page, here's what is going to happen. We are about to, again, this was our live kickoff with Jared so that we could interact with him here live. And then we are going to roll the course. Again, it is almost 9 hours. So, buckle up, get your coffee, and sit down and going to enjoy learning from one of the best here, Jared Platt. And if you do then purchase the course, however, you have access then to it at any time where you can pause, stop, rewind, etc. So that is how it's going to roll. Jared, before we go into that, let's talk about where people can find you, follow you, and all of the things, catch up with all the things that you're doing as well.
Well, first, they can always find me here on Creative Live because there's a whole bunch of courses here. And then also just jaredplatt.com. So on Facebook, it's Jared Platt. On Twitter, it's Jared Platt. On Instagram, it's Jared Platt. So just JaredPlatt. If you search the web, you'll find me and also a pro wrestler who has passed away. So I'm the photographer. He's the pro wrestler. Those are the only people you'll find with my name, apparently. So.
All right, thanks for that extra tidbit, Jared.
Yeah. He does look a bit like me too, so don't be confused. I do not wrestle. I'm not a pro wrestler.
But you do many other things, including music, like you
yes.
alluded to earlier.
But no wrestling.
All right, everyone. Well, just a few shout outs about that earlier debate. We do have people who both take photographs, create photographs to share them, and others who create them just as part of their life journey. So
there are some Kenna-like people and some Jared-like people, right?
There you go. There you go.
That's good.
But
diversity is good.
That's right. That's right. Here we are, ready to learn, everybody. Like I said, buckle up. This is going to be a super exciting class. You can always see what it is that is playing here on Creative Live, creativelive.com/on-air, and go ahead and RSVP for things to come. Be sure to follow Jared, and we're going to say goodbye for now. Once again, if you are watching on social media, Kate has provided the link there to go over where the class itself is going to play on creativelive.com. And you can always, if you missed this on social, you can rewatch it. But for now, thank you so much to Jared Platt. Super exciting to kick off the year with a new class with you. And enjoy, everybody. We will see you next time right here on Creative Live.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Chase Jarvis, founder and CEO of Creative Live. You all know that we have more than 2,000 classes and more than 10,000 hours of learning, inspirational, and motivational content on the platform. I'm super excited to announce a new experience on Creative Live. It's called Fast Class. You've told us that you're busy and sometimes it's hard to dive into a full class from start to finish. So essentially, we're now giving you a shortened highlight version of our top Creative Live classes. You can always dive into the full class with 5, 10, or 15 hours of great content. But now, if you're just looking to focus on a few of the highlights or want to be able to skip quickly to something that really interests you, you can now get a shortened fast class version of that class. We're also thinking this might be able to help you explore a new craft and save time while doing it. This is a great tool to curate your learning experience to help create the life that you seek. So you're probably thinking, great, how do I access this new experience on Creative Live? That's easy. All you have to do is be a subscriber to the Creator Pass, and then all this is yours.